Welcome to If You Live It. Welcome to a conversation about embracing and experiencing courage. We've come from a place already where we've dived deeper into chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, into steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's what these particular conversations are about, diving deeper into the chapters of If You Live It, deeper into the steps, deeper in how you do them and what they are, why they matter, how they apply to your life, what you can do with them. You'll notice in these videos that all the different teaching points are timestamped in the description. You'll see that we're changing things up, trying things out, going different directions. But for the most part, we're trying to make things easier, more accessible. And these videos are a prime example of that. We are taking more time to go into each particular chapter that was released a couple days prior to these videos going up. So by the time we get to April, all 12 steps, all 12 chapters have information, supporting information, content. Each chapter is read to you. You can read each chapter. You can listen to each chapter. We are creating a platform for you to be able to take these steps and perform them in your life and use these online resources as an online sponsor. And today is exciting. This video is exciting. This content is exciting. This episode, however you're hearing it, consuming it, listening to it, working through it, being part of it. It's exciting because we have moved into step 5. We've moved into chapter 5. We are no longer talking about transcending these different aspects of fear, these lower levels of the ego. We are now talking about experiencing sunlight. We're now moving into a place where if you have worked steps 1, 2, and 3 integrously, honestly, for yourself, and you've done them, and you've moved into a place where you have done step 4 or are working on step 4 or are looking at it and getting ready to do it, there is no possible way whatsoever that you are a slave to your ego any longer, that you are a slave to these lower levels, that you're a slave to shame and guilt, anger, pride, fear, desire. We've transcended them. We've transcended our addiction to them. It doesn't mean they're not present. It doesn't mean that these lower levels don't approach us and come and arise as stimuli into awareness, as thoughts, as feelings, as emotions, as things that we have to work through and continue to surrender, continue to forgive, continue to embrace. But where we are in this step 5, in this chapter 5, is we're now at a place of courage or above. We're now at a place where our karma is not dictated by groups, by masses. We now have a place from a spiritual sense, from one context, where the etheric body has begun to arise. The spiritual body is now as much a part of your experience if you're coming from courage or above as group karma is at the lower levels. We move from transcending forces to experiencing power when we move to courage and above. Chapter 5 is a wonderful place to find yourself. This is a world where you have already experienced miracles. If you have honestly and integrously worked steps 1, 2, and 3 and done step 4, and now you're ready for step 5, you're at a whole different place. You're in a whole different ballgame. You're in a life where things have probably gotten a little crazy, where all sorts of fears and worries have arisen into awareness, where you have walked through them, you have surrendered them over, where you have looked back on your life and created a fearless and moral inventory. And now you're ready to share that. You're ready to unload that. You're ready to see more miracles. There is no possible way whatsoever, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you've done 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and you're arriving at this video in succession, that your life hasn't changed, that you don't feel more happiness, more joy present. It's impossible. Unless you've shortchanged and half-shrift these steps and barely did them or just read over them, if you have actually done them, your life's already changed. And it's going to reach a place where you've already seen a miracle or two. You've already found relief from suffering. You've already found that certain pain points have been let go. If you're finding this video and you're saying, what is this whole world about? Go back to the beginning. Go back to step 1, where we're seeing that there's a problem with this thing called the ego, the mind. Step 2, where we're looking at the reality that in and of ourselves, nothing we have done have relieved us from the suffering of our attachments to this thing called the mind. 3, where we have asked a power greater than ourselves to come in and help relieve this suffering. 4, where we've created a fearless and searching moral inventory of all our resentments and fears and angers for people, places, things, institutions. And now we've arrived at this particular chapter of If You Live It, a pathway to freedom. where we're getting to unload it. And the rest of the journey is downhill. You may look at steps 8 and step 9 and start thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to make an amends to people. You might. But that is a whole nother round of miracles. Step 5 is a joyous experience, because when you exit step 5 and you've told what you found from step 4 to yourself, out loud to God and to another, there is a relief that comes from this. And step 6 and step 7 are about giving it to God and saying, God, please take these defects of character, these things I found, these moments in time from my life, so they're no longer part of it. We're talking about experiencing courage, embracing a life where we're out in the sun, where the clouds are parted, where we're starting to get glimpses of what a different way of living can be, of what a life surrendered, a life worth living can be. Again, I have to state it, there is no possible way whatsoever, if you've actually worked the 4 steps before this one in an honest and integrous way, that you've arrived here not changed already, not ready to take on challenges that you didn't even know you had the energy to. It's impossible that your mental health has stayed the same. It's impossible that your physical health has stayed the same. It's impossible that you're not sleeping better. It's impossible that life is not different in a very beautiful and positive way. Experiencing courage is the first level in Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness that puts us in a place where we get to start taking on past lifetimes worth of garbage and baggage, where we get to take on a degree of karma from this particular lifetime and work that off. And this is probably a good place to start talking about karma. What is karma? Karma is you. It's everything that's ever arisen, that you've ever been around, that you've ever absorbed, the human condition, this brain, this body coming into existence. It's all karma. The West doesn't understand karma. They misinterpret karma as reincarnation, 2 totally different things. Reincarnation will be a topic and a subject at other times. But when we talk about karma, karma is what you are. And you are working off what we would call negative karma by working these steps. The reason I say chaos will arise in your life, things will get a little crazy when you start working these steps, is because you are setting your intent on truth. You're setting your intent on God. And you're saying, God, please recontextualize my life so that all past karma can be brought into awareness, so I can surrender it over, so I can see it, so I can move past it. So it's a good chaos. It's a good cluster. How many of you who have reached this point after working these steps have found the mind doing everything it possibly can to stop you from working the previous step, to stop you from finding someone, asking someone, being part of a 5th step? It's incredible what the mind starts doing, again, karmically. The mind for millennia has evolved into the place where the hardware that it sits against, the brain, takes in stimuli and then allows the mind to process and use that stimuli in a way to create positionalities, vantage points, viewpoints, arguments, opinions. And the mind, when you are working the 4th step, is in overdrive as to why you should stop. Into the 5th step, it will try to convince you that there's not someone you can trust to talk this through with. If you can find someone in your life you trust, a friend, a confidant, a family member, if it's a priest, a pastor, an imam, a rabbi, a counselor, a therapist, a social worker, a teacher you had once, a professor, or if you need me to help, the 5th step is where you get to talk about what you found, where someone gets to listen to you, make notes based on what they're hearing, tell you just some observations that they made and what arose into them as inspiration and inspired comments. And then you get to take that into the 6th and 7th step, where you're giving that to God. You're giving that to a power greater than yourself to relieve what you have found as shortcomings in your life, what you have found as things that are less than what you know yourself to be, what you know yourself to start to be experiencing yourself as. Karma is a word. Karma is an exchange of energy. Karma is what goes around comes around. Karma is a spiritual truth, a principle of many of the world's religions that point to our choices have consequences. You can look at it with regards to a scientific principle. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. It's karma. What you do here does this there. What arises here creates a propensity for this to arise there. When you set your intent on God, you create a whole new karmic propensity towards the opportunity to surrender over your attachments and your aversions. When the Buddha says all suffering comes from attachments and aversions, the next thing that needs to be understood is, how do I start even seeing what I'm attached to and averse to? You set your intent on truth. You set your intent on knowing God. You set your intent on chasing after a personal subjective reality where love is present everywhere around you, where you're moving towards a goal of enlightenment, where you're moving towards a goal of knowing God, of not having a separation between yourself and the Creator, of knowing who Jesus is, of knowing who Krishna is, not reading about it, of knowing who the Buddha is, of knowing about this map of consciousness, of knowing why the work from Byron Katie can be so beneficial, of knowing why within all of the world's religions we're saying the same thing, which is that God is the ultimate. You're asking God to give you that karma, that propensity towards positive movement in the direction of letting go, of surrendering, of freedom. This step, this chapter cannot be understated, the value of it, how immense it is to reach this point. And I cannot overstate to those who have just found this content or listening to it or watching it or experiencing it and thinking, what in the world is he talking about? You have to go back and look deeper into what we've already started to build and what we've already started to provide. Because you too can have an experience where you are moving into a world where you are not dominated by shame and guilt and apathy and grief, fear and desire, anger and pride. Where you're in a place that those are just aspects of something worth surrendering, not what you are. In all honesty, the vast majority of mankind comes from one of those states. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, or pride. It's a smaller percentage of mankind currently existing today that comes from a place of courage or acceptance or willingness or a higher intellect or peace, joy, love, unconditional love, states of enlightenment. It's a very small percentage as you continue to go upwards in this kind of evolutionary scale, this map of consciousness. You have done something amazing, even by finding this content. And the choice to go deeper into it is even more amazing. These videos are being made, this content is being provided before we've ever even had a meeting. So if you have found these videos and you go, how do I even learn more about this? Find more of the videos, find more of the podcasts, find more of the episodes, read the content on ifyouliveit.com, go to the blog section, dive in, sign up for a meeting, take part in it, listen to it, be about it. Set your intent north, set your intent on God. If you're saying, what is one thing I can do right now in this particular moment to find more joy in my life, more truth in my life, to have an experience of God where I know God is real and it's not understanding about it or reading about it or choosing to have a belief about it. The one thing you can do right now is you can say, God, I choose you, even though I don't know what that means. I set my intent on you. If this is a pathway for me, if you live it as a pathway that would be valuable to me, please let that continue to resound within me. Please continue to pull me towards it. Please show me more of these videos, more of this content. Please let me dive into being part of this community. Please and thank you. We have what we could call positive and negative karmic bank accounts, to be quite honest. And at a particular point of consciousness, at much higher levels of enlightenment, you realize that the only thing that is of value is constantly continuing to choose that which you already are. When you come from a place of apathy or guilt, shame, grief, fear, desire, anger, or pride, you don't even know that you're anything other than that. You don't feel your value is more than that. And your entire life view and perspective is about taking and not getting. The world has it backwards. Those angles are backwards. You don't find joy and happiness and truth and excitement for life and an appreciation for the gift of humanness in the order to work off this karma when you come from those places. If you find yourself stuck in one of those hells, cry out to God right now. Plead and beg God. Say, please help me. Please remove me from this. Please point me towards only truth. If you found these videos and you think they're nonsense, probably not for you. If it wasn't the way and someone laughed at it, it wouldn't be the way. This pathway is not for everyone, although it is applicable to everyone. Not everyone is ready to transcend their ego and their fears and to find out if it's possible to be completely free from all attachment and operation of the ego. By transcending these fears, these lower states, it means you are no longer them. You're no longer run by them. It doesn't mean they do not exist in reality and your experience of reality. You will still deal with these illusions while you have a human body. They'll come in different waves and different formats and different wavelengths and different forms. Once you think you have transcended individual karma, wait until someone else comes into your life. Wait until you're a parent. Wait until you are in the world because the reality is, regardless of where you are, how close you are to God, very few just choose to expire somewhere. The vast majority of the teachers that are sitting on bearskin rugs or tiger skin rugs who are unable to communicate to you and have you worshiping at their feet are not at a place where they're actually having an experience of God as present, as reality. Most of it's a show. The vast majority of mankind that have ever reached the upper levels of consciousness is characterized by enlightenment, and the different levels of such expire and leave. Very few pretend to be something, because at that particular point, you're no longer pretending. The reality is, no matter where your karmic bank account is, being a part of the world remains a likelihood, but you're no longer attached to it. You're no longer of it. Every time you do something for someone else without wanting something in return, every time you give of yourself, every time you let go of a fear, every time that you lend your hand to another, every time that you serve someone, every time that you recontextualize how you serve God by serving something in your community, every time you give $1 to someone in need, every time you buy groceries for someone, every time you do something which is the right thing to do without anybody watching, you are adding to your karmic bank account. You are propelling an existence in human form as a spiritual entity into a place where more courage, more acceptance, more willingness, more peace, more joy, more love, more unconditional love is present. It can be a reality for you. Working these steps all the way through is a pathway that can take you there, to the final doorway, to being love, to sainthood, to Christhood. The chosen is not a select few who have been guaranteed that spot by God. Being anointed, being chosen, is a continual addition to your positive karmic bank account, over and over and over and over and over again. Being chosen, being anointed, being Christed, being holy, reaching sainthood, allowing love to flow through you in such a way that it heals the world around you, not because you're doing anything, but because what you are is so close to the reality of God that God allows what you are to have more of God come through you for the world is a possibility and a reality when you continue to chase after God without stopping, without ceasing. When you set your intent north, INTENT, intent north, it recontextualizes everything. It sets up a whole new paradigm of choices for you to make. You can change your entire life today by honestly taking step one if you haven't done it. If you've watched these videos, if you've listened to this, if you've seen these, but you haven't actually gone and said, what is this step one? What is he talking about? And read it, or watched one of these videos where we dive deeper into it to understand more about it, or join one of our meetings online or in person and actually experience for yourself setting your intent north, building your karmic bank account with admitting you're powerless over something, you have a whole world in front of you that you have no idea the possibilities for. They're endless, they're beautiful, they're bountiful. Everyone watching this, thank you. Everyone listening to this, thank you. this channel, these places of If You Live It are growing by leaps and bounds. We are in really just the beginning of month 2 when this content comes out, and we've reached what looks like to be over 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, thousands of hours of listens. We have shorties that get broken off of each one of these that point back to these particular videos. We have over 8,000 people on the Facebook page where we post daily just what is coming out. On Sundays, we end a week leading into Monday where we have a deliberate devotion thought on a particular verse taken from a particular world religion each week. We have daily devotionals, which we call the deliberate devotion, that go up, which is a truth and a prayer every day. You can find that on the Facebook page. You can find that on my Instagram at Mason Burks. We have those daily deliberate devotion days in a dynamic form, which go into the stories and the feeds for that day. On Mondays, we release a new chapter. We release it on the website via the content section where you can read it, where we have links to YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We release also a podcast form of this every Monday, and we release a YouTube version of this every Monday. And so there's 3 different ways that you can absorb this content. Read it, listen to it, watch it. Wednesdays, we'd have these particular videos going out in the first 3 months of 2025, where we dive deeper into the step that we talked about on the Monday, the step in the chapter. And then Fridays, we have a longer form conversation about some spiritual principle, some particular thing of value that the Holy Spirit has downloaded for you to absorb and consume. We are putting out a tremendous amount of spiritual truth, spiritual content for you to have at your disposal. If you desire just to be a little happier in life, if you desire to know God, if you want a connection with something greater than yourself, if the question of is God real eating up at you, if you want to go all the way to being love for the world and past that to being unconditional love coming out from every pore of your being to sainthood, to the final doorway of enlightenment, opening, you can take this pathway all the way to the bank, baby. There is nothing, spiritually speaking, that these 12 steps contextualized this way and practiced along with regular surrender, forgiveness, and service to your community that will not take you to the doorway of knowing God and that final choice to surrender over even your existence to the Creator. If you've stuck it this far in this video, great job. If you haven't and you find it one day, years from now, great job. If you never reach this piece, it's here for you regardless. Many blessings, much love. I hope you gathered and gleaned something from this. And I hope you look forward to the next video in this series, which is Watch My Feet. Watch my feet. Until next time, peace, love, happiness. Be busy living. Yeah.